UK. Philippe Lamberts joins me now, a member of the European Parliament, co-chair of the Green Party, the FFA group. You've just been at the forum, on the platform, with others, sharing the panel on climate change and are we doing enough? I suppose that's the question I should ask you. But having just seen the debate, it was... Yes, well, it was definitely debate. You know, we call this open dialogue where agriculture meets the environment, but certainly with Daniel Crespo and others, it was quite a sparky kind of debate, Philippe.
Well, that's what expected of me, isn't it? No, I could feel a very...
You didn't disappoint.
Yeah, well, I felt a very divided audience because obviously my call for an urgent paradigm shift in agriculture has a lot of supporters, but also meets a lot of resistance. And that was a bit the polarization of the debate, because what I heard from, say, the officials, Arias Cañete, the commissioner first, and then the representative of the commission and of the agro-business, because that's what it is, was basically more of the same. It was complacency. Yes, we need to do some more on climate, etc., without changing the DNA of the system. But the DNA of the system is what produces climate change. It's not the only component, but it does. So I mean, thinking that you can just green the system as it is lunacy. I mean, you can't do this. I mean, gearing the agricultural system towards global markets is already the wrong starting point. The fact that you want always bigger scale exploitations, well, call them farms if you want, is really the wrong angle. The fact that you have to rely mostly on science in order to achieve that scale, that is basically gene editing, that means oil, massive machines, GMOs and all the rest of it. Well, this is exactly what we fight against. It's not by chance that birds are dying, that insects are dying, that farmers are committing suicide. I mean, that's the reality of today. And so unless the common agricultural policy becomes the catalyst of this shift, well, we won't be successful. And that is the problem, is that, well, we still have a cap that is geared towards production, and then we give some subsidies to ecological practices. That's fine, but actually we should say not 1 euro cent, not 1 euro cent of the cap goes to activities that run against, that fuel climate change, biodiversity loss, or inequality. That is what we need to do. And I didn't hear, say, on the mainstream, no, I won't say mainstream, establishment part of the audience, readiness to even consider this.
You're saying you didn't hear that?
No, absolutely not. I didn't hear appetite to do that. And so when it was very interesting, when I mentioned all these facts, they called it ideology. Because ideology is something that you can put stuff in the ideology box so that you do not feel compelled to answer. It's ideology. So we don't need to answer that. The problem is that what they call ideology are facts.
But possibly it may be ideological, as in dreamlike, unrealistic. We have to work with what we've got. We can't completely change the system. It's too embedded, it's too wide, it encompasses too much. So the question really in the forum was, what are the practical solutions? What are the practical solutions? What can we do with what we've got? Because we can't completely change it. That does seem to be ideological and idealistic.
No, I don't agree with that. And first, there's a difference between idealism and ideology. I put human beings at the center of my action. You call that idealism, but I think that's what we human beings are in for. So putting the human being and not the maximization of profit as the top preoccupation, I think, is rather a sane ideology. That's a starting point. No, I will agree with you. Well, I won't agree with you that we can't change the system completely. We have to change it completely, but we have to, it's a reform path. You cannot just say, throw it away and take another one. We need to transform it. And that's the difficult part, of course, because we do not start from any place. We start from where we are. Now, the first thing are indicators. Do we agree that what we want to achieve is a net reduction of CO2, a net reduction of other pollutants, and there's many of them? If that is what we want to agree, then we have to gear the entire policies behind those indicators. As long as we say we want to maximize production, we want to be competitive on the global markets, as long as this provides the compass, we won't do the right policies. So it starts with choosing your compass. And there I would really question whether there's a political majority to change the compass. And then the rest is indeed, well, instead of using the cap to subsidize production, you can say, okay, from now on, we are no longer going to subsidize production, but we are only going to subsidize transformative activities. So not really transformative. Okay, people who are currently in the agro-business model, when they want to shift, we will basically help them financially, because we know that this requires investment and carries financial risk. Because indeed, when you have sunk capital into a model that you have to ditch, well, that carries cost. And there I would like taxpayers to help and to say, okay, well, it's true that politicians have pushed in one direction. If players now feel pushed in another direction and there's cost associated to that, well, let's share the cost of the transition. And that is where I think there's space for compromise.
Very final, very brief question. We're talking about the next generation as our theme for the forum this year.
Yeah.
You talked about that new compass, that compass shift. Do you see that coming with a new generation? Do you have some optimism for the future?
Yeah.
Very briefly.
Absolutely. When you talk to young farmers, that's what they want. They've seen their parents or other people's parents dying into the old system. They want something different. But they have massive difficulties accessing land and getting started. These are the people we need to help.
Philippe Lamberts, thank you very much for joining us today.